Hey there, folks. Anthony Taylor here. Thanks so much for joining us on today's episode of the Strategy and Leadership Podcast. Today, I am joined by Mehak Vohra, who is the CEO of SkillBank. Mehak, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I'm excited to learn more about you. I'm excited to learn more about what's happening in the world of marketing and how you're getting people into the workforce. But before we do that, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about you, how you got to where you are, and some of the cool accomplishments you've had to date.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my name is Mehak Vohra. I am the founder and CEO of SkillBank. We're a marketing school that's completely free up front. So once you land a job making over $40,000 per year, you start to pay us back. Before that, I ran a marketing agency for 3 years. I used to be a LinkedIn influencer. I'd pull in around 1 to 3 million views on the platform. And now also for fun, I'm a TikToker and I create a lot of content on there.
That's awesome. So what, as somebody who not only does marketing actively for their own business, but also is supporting and getting people ready for the workforce, what are some of the, I guess, why should people care about marketing in 2021? Maybe I'll ask you that question first.
I think marketing has changed a lot in the last 5 or 6 years. Before, it was just about, it wasn't about quality, it was about quantity. It was just like you wanted to be in front of people's faces, and the person that was pushing out the most content, or the company that was pushing out the most content, was most top of mind. It was easiest to pull in new customers. Now, media and media marketing in general is actually about quality. It's about how can you actually stay in the consumer's mind. So we're seeing companies are actually growing by putting out a lot less content, but content that actually makes their customers think, or content that actually gets people to start a conversation and gets them to talk about them. They always talk about how you want to go viral, and I think you can really truly go viral whenever you're creating that word of mouth effect, and people are not just talking about you online, but you're creating such a conversation that people are talking about your company or your advertisement or your content at dinner or at lunch with their friends. It's, if you can think out of the box and create a strategy that sticks in people's minds, you can build a strong marketing strategy.
And as it relates to, obviously, there's the gamut between not-for-profit organizations like small businesses, anywhere from 20 to 100 or 200 employees, and then some with thousands. Why is it important for CEOs and like the people who are leading the charge of their business to at least be in tune with like marketing as a function in the business? Because I've seen some people who think they know marketing, and marketing is one of those things that you think you know about, but you can totally miss the mark. Why is it critical for them to understand the core concepts of marketing and sort of consumer acquisition in 2021?
There's a lot of different types of marketing. There's brand marketing, which is just getting people to recognize what your brand is, and that's more just focused on impressions rather than actually driving revenue or building out that bottom line. And then what we actually teach at SkillBank is customer acquisition. That's a lot more technical than people think. People think that customer acquisition sometimes is brand marketing, where you're trying to get yourself out in front of as many people as you possibly can. And while that's a part of it, it's actually more about how do you identify the people that are the best personas that to be targeting for that top of funnel, so that way you can bring in the right customers. And then how do you actually create something to retain them over a long period of time? Because if you're just marketing out to anyone and everyone, you're going to do your company a disservice in the long term, because those customers might not stay. So customer acquisition today is really more about identifying who is the best type of customer for you, what platforms are they on, and then how are you going to actually go about bringing them in, and setting their expectations as early on as possible, so that way they retain over a long period of time.
And how do you see that tying into sort of like corporate strategy, like, because there's the sort of the triangle of branding and positioning with, like you're in SF. So, but just like everything that's going on in the States and in the world, like the brand and the essence of a company has to come through in the marketing. And then there's the technical aspects of marketing, of the communication out. And then there's the overall component of, growing the business. So how do you see those three intermingling, I suppose?
Yeah. I mean, they all work together at the end of the day. So actually, wait, could you repeat that? I think I missed you there for a second.
Yeah. How does brand
Yeah.
marketing tie into overall corporate strategy and corporate vision?
Yeah. If your company isn't aligned on what your brand is, it's going to be really hard to set expectations for the customers that are coming in to your company and are using your product. So I think it's really important to set that brand very early on. But marketing, the whole job of marketing is to just bring in the right types of customers and then set those expectations with those customers of what you're going to actually be able to provide for them. And I think if you can do that with a small company, or you can do this with a big corporate company as well. With bigger companies, it's more about identifying who are the best customers for all of the different types of products that you have available. But yeah, it really just, I think if as long as everyone's aligned, I think that's the most important thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a critical point. So for those that, I'm a marketing guy by trade. And so it's so interesting. And you had mentioned like what's changed over the past like 5 years. It's the right types of customer. I don't know if 10 years ago, people really thought about what is the right type of customer, because it was much harder to lump them into buckets. You might have general age, and you might have gender or ethnicity and geographic location. And that's about as much data as you could get. Now, if you look at what Facebook is telling you why you saw this ad, it's because you are on TikTok more than 2 hours a day, and you own a dog and you live like within 5 feet of a Starbucks. Like that's how targeted you could get with your marketing, and how focused your competitors can also be with their marketing. So as we talk about the competitive landscape, why would you say it's important for an entire leadership team to really be able to understand their core customer persona and that core like sort of value, the value that they're delivering for their products and services?
Yeah, I mean, when you understand who your customer base is, it's a lot easier to build for them. It's a lot easier to make sure that at the end of the day, you're actually building a product that they want. You can go back and ask them, how are you liking the product? It helps with getting the whole team together on one vision. And this is something that we teach at SkillBank to our students that are coming through the program, that you really have to think about at the end, like in the very beginning, like who is your user persona, who are you going after, and make sure that your whole team is aligned on that. Because once your whole team is aligned on that, that's where product comes into play, and they can make sure that they're building the right type of product for the right type of person. Marketing's making sure they're going after the right type of person. Sales is making sure that they're closing the right type of people. And if anyone is not aligned with that, your machine is going to break. So yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's really important for everyone to be aligned on who that customer is and why they're looking at your company as a potential solution for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And depending on where you are in the channel, like you might be a project manager, you might be, somebody on the front lines, but everybody needs to have that understanding, because as I see it, marketing touches everything these days.
Yeah.
There's nothing that isn't marketing, even in production, even in, you could be representing a company while you're out shopping and people can find out. So you need to really be aware of all of that component.
Yeah, for sure. And marketing too is it's giving information to the rest of the team, right? So marketing's job is to make sure that they're interviewing potential customers, they're getting an idea of what the market landscape looks like, and then they can use that information to then give help the rest of the team out with actually making sure that they are building for the right people. So marketing plays a much bigger role than just making sure that they're bringing new people in and customer acquisition. They also play the role of giving more information to the whole team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a good point, like being able to take that in and alter and make decisions, because things are moving so fast these days. And, we had just made a YouTube video the other day about mission-based organizations, like not-for-profits. And even in the past, like 2 years, the core value proposition that most membership associations and groups has changed so much, because like you had to do stuff in person, or restaurants had to do everything in person. And now everybody's ordering online. So if you're only sort of blasting out messaging, you're missing an opportunity to get that critical feedback within a function that already exists. And that speaks to like the social listening and listening to the social signals on social media. It's like OG Twitter, but I don't know if people are using Twitter like that anymore. But anyway, what? By the way, if anybody watching either on YouTube or live, be sure to drop any questions that you have in the chat from Mehak. I should be happy to answer those. And then be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. So SkillBank, tell me a little bit more about SkillBank and why people should be interested.
Yeah, so like I said, we're a marketing school. The really exciting thing about what we're doing is we're making education accessible to anyone, regardless of their zip code or their financial background. So you can go through SkillBank if you're making 5K a year. You could go through SkillBank if you're making 80K a year. And our whole goal is we want to teach trainable skills to help you get a job at a marketing agency. So right now we're only teaching paid media. So you learn Facebook ads, Google ads, Amazon ads, and Apple ads, and we'll also help you get certifications in all 4 of those platforms. So that way, whenever you go to work at an agency, you're not just entry-level talent, but you're like the best entry-level talent that is at that company at that point. Because a lot of these agencies right now, they're struggling with bringing in people that actually know how these platforms work, and they have to spend time on training them. So our whole goal is how can we make the best entry-level talent in the marketing world right now?
Yeah, no, I love that. So why, you mentioned a specific set of skills. And then you also mentioned that from your perspective, like there's a gap in terms of companies who the only reason you hire somebody is because you've got a skills gap. So why would you say those 4 ads or those 4 channels are really the critical ones that you're teaching people, and you're teaching them right now?
That's where everyone is right now. If you have a question, you're going to Google it. Facebook right now with Gen Z isn't that popular, but Instagram is. And Instagram's ad platform is the same as Facebook's because Facebook owns them. And then Amazon and Apple. I mean, Apple owns a large majority of the devices that we use today, and Amazon is the biggest purchasing provider right now. So, there's a lot of, those are like the 4 main places that people find themselves. And if you can learn to use those platforms, that's what agencies are hiring for right now. And we conducted research by talking to agencies, by looking at consulting platforms. And yeah, it seems right now that paid media is one of the hardest fields that agencies are trying to hire for right now, because here's the thing, with creative, it's really easy to hire for that, because you can tell if someone has a creative eye, if they can if they know how to create content, or they have that creative part of their brain. That's something that's really hard to train. What you can train, though, is how do these platforms work, and teach the technical aspect to it. And that's what we're really focusing on during the program, is what is the technical side of using these platforms, and how can you make sure that a company that you're working for is actually making the most out of their ad spend, and it's actually driving revenue to that bottom line.
Yeah, because I know that, for some of this stuff, like we built our company on SEO, like original SEO, and people still talk about it, but they have, like, even now in 2021, like a misunderstanding of what it is. But then, like, the pure power of these paid ads and paid media, different than earned media, but in conjunction, that's what drives budgets. That's where people are at. So you had mentioned that you had a couple articles that really took off, that went, dare I say, viral, but you got a lot of eyeballs on it. Tell me about what was your process for not only creating that, but the intention behind it, and what are some of the key takeaways that our listeners can have as they start building their own sort of campaigns like that?
Yeah, so whenever you're creating content online, the first thing that you want to think about is, what is the best case scenario of my product working? So for SkillBank, the best case scenario is that we give you financial freedom and we help you land a job. So taking it backwards a little bit, we wanted to create content around reaching that final vision. And that's exactly what we started doing. So on LinkedIn, on TikTok, we're pushing out a lot of content around being motivated, helping yourself land that job, helping yourself get out of that situation that you're having trouble paying rent. And that being able to help our potential customers visualize what it would be like working for us, we found has been the best way to actually help us with creating a brand and content online. So I think that's where actually understanding your user persona is really, really, really important, because if we were going after college students, it looks a lot different than going after someone that's in their mid-20s. And it's a lot easier for us to actually create content that shows that end goal, rather than being all over the place and trying to figure out who we should be creating that content for.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you speak a little bit to, like, there's 5 generations in the workforce right now, and we talked about entry-level people, but from a marketing perspective, if you were in the seat of marketing director and you're trying to market to all of those different segments, whether it's marketing for new jobs or marketing for products and services, is there any sort of surprising considerations that they need to talk to? Is it one size fits all, or should you have multiple different campaigns targeting like all of the different sort of levels of people?
I mean, I think it just really depends what stage your company's in, right? Like if you're just starting off, it's better to work with one user persona or one specific type of person that that you can grow with, and then you can start to branch out into more types of people to be working with later, or different types of customer bases. So I always say, like, even with companies that we're working with to help with marketing, start small, identify who that first user persona is, or who those first people that you want to work with, and then branch your way out that way.
Cool. I get that. So one of my last questions here is, we talked about TikTok and Instagram, and it's like what I would call the newest version of media, but also has so many eyeballs. So if you're an established company and you're saying, hey, like, what can we do to, and like, dare I say, spice up our marketing, but look at some new channels? Like, what are some of those things that they have to really nail when entering new marketing channels, and maybe even specifically with video content, because that seems to be one of the most popular forms of content today, short form video?
It really depends on the platform. So I would actually say that if you're looking to get into creating video content right now, TikTok is the best place to go to, because TikTok, if you create really engaging content, TikTok will do the job of finding your audience for you. They'll identify what makes you the most authentic version of you, and they'll show that to other people. So I always say that if you're looking to get started into content, start on TikTok, start testing out a bunch of different types of formats. Identify who are the people that you're trying to go after. What would they want to see? Identify other TikTok creators that are within the space, start following onto their trends, create content like them. And then that audience, as you start to build it, is going to translate over into Instagram, because you can connect your Instagram account. And I've found that I'll have a video that'll get maybe like 30-40,000 views, and it'll bring over for me like 100 to 200 new followers to my Instagram account. So if you can create something that gets people to think, you'll be able to build an audience on all of your other platforms, starting off with TikTok.
Yeah, I love that. And so for the folks listening at home, I'm in the cusp of like pre-internet, post-internet, and TikTok might sound like one of those things. And I think Gary Vee called it first, but I'm saying don't sleep on TikTok, because I really think that it's a huge opportunities for brands that can do it well. And if you're a leader in your organization and you want to highlight the human side of your organization, like not just the brand, the person behind it. I really think short form video is going to be a great opportunity to really tell your story and really build that like brand equity inside your company. So and everybody else, again, listening for our next podcast, next interview, we're going to be interviewing Henry Das, who's going to talk about unlocking financial intelligence to support business growth. So today we got Mehak, who's talking about marketing. Next time we'll talk about finance. But Mehak, just as we finish up here, what are some of the 2 or 3 takeaways you really want our listeners to know about, creating a marketing strategy for success in 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, the first one I touched on quite a bit. Make sure you identify who the people are that you're actually going after and create a user persona so your whole team is aligned on that. Second, if you are looking to start creating content, start off on TikTok. That platform will help you identify what is your most authentic voice. And then third is just have fun with it. I think at the end of the day, you're not going to know what's going to work and what isn't if you don't test things out and try out a bunch of different things. And if you go into it thinking about, hey, I'm trying to do things differently, I'm trying to have fun with it, your audience will see that as well.
Yeah, I love that. Where can people get a hold of you? Where can they learn more about SkillBank?
Sure. So if you want to apply to SkillBank or maybe even hire from SkillBank, you can head over to joinskillbank.com. If you want to follow me, I'm at the Mehak Vohra on all social media platforms. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Mehak. Appreciate you joining us. Everyone listening at home, I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Mehak Vohra, who is the CEO of SkillBank. I highly encourage you. Marketing is going to be that secret weapon over the next couple of years to distinguish and differentiate, because the world is moving around and marketing is like the leading indicator to make that move. So thank you so much for joining us, Mehak. It's been a pleasure. My name is Anthony Taylor. This has been the Strategy and Leadership Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, everyone.